Welcome back, folks, to Fishing Planet. I'm Soopa-Dave, and today we're going to be talking about the Club Series gear for a few reasons. One, I want to say thank you to Dizzy, who let me know today they brought out some more stuff. We're going to be looking at that, by the way, but this morning I was busy editing videos, and the first time in like 4 weeks I did not sign up in the morning. They obviously put stuff out. So, with that being said, we're going to be taking a look at it and we're going to be having a discussion about Club Series stuff. I've tested these a little bit more. I'm starting to feel very confident. Uh, I haven't tested everyone for, 6, 10 hours, but I've tested a lot of them a lot. You guys have seen it here on the channel with streaming and stuff. And I do want to talk about it because you guys have been asking about the Club Series gear. So, first of all, we're going to go through as we talk about it and look at the gear. We did get more gear. Before we look at that, let's go over and start at the very beginning here at rods. And yes, there are new rods. Am I worried about buying these? No. Do I think they're going to help you really catch fish better? No. I'm a believer. I have X Series poles, obviously, X Series boat, X Series extra stuff. That stuff doesn't ever seem to help. What does actually seem to help me personally is the lures or maybe the hooks and jig heads and stuff like that. So this extra stuff like the boats, the rods, the reels, I'm not overly concerned with. Although I will say they are cool looking. And for the price that they are, you could, instead of 6,000 to get this rod, you could get so many more of the X Series lures or actual stuff that is probably beneficial to you. And again, one thing I want to note with all this Club Series stuff here, all this Club Series stuff, is it is level 5. If you're on PlayStation, we can't buy the pack repeatedly, but on all other platforms that I know, you can actually buy the Club Series pack that does come with club tokens. If that's something you're interested in, uh, honestly, for value spent within the game, it's one of the better things. And like I said, I would save it for lures and stuff and soft baits and more than I would anything else, just to give you guys a heads up, because a lot of this stuff that you're about to see is really expensive, and that's kind of why I want to do this video. I was going to hold off for a while and do this down the road, but I will walk you through. Another thing too I want to mention at the beginning of this video, having tested the Club Series stuff, and we'll talk a little bit more about each one specifically as we go on. But if you have a bass jig that works at Florida, the Club Series is going to work really well, just as good as the X Series. All the Club Series stuff, in my opinion, from what I've seen so far, is right on tier with X Series to me. It might even be slightly better, but it's on that tier. It's on really good tier. So keep that in mind. All of it is level 5, and some of it is even barbless. So if you're level 5 and you can use barbless gear to get the bonus XP, that's really helpful as too. So let's go ahead and take a look at all this here. I won't spend too much time on these because, to be honest, I don't think a lot of people are going to be getting these. These aren't going to impact your game a whole lot. Like, for example, when I use an X Series pole, it doesn't help me over using a normal one. Or that I've never noticed it anyway. And in 7 years, you think I would, or, well, 8 years now, you would have think I would have noticed that by now. But no, I do not. Not even in the slightest, actually. I was hoping there was going to be a Fire Zeus, but it doesn't seem to be that way. Sadly, that might have been something I got down the road. It does look like a X Series Nile Chaser, or a Club Series. If I say X Series instead of Club Series this video, guys, bear with me. For reels, we'll go to new. You can see there is a whole lot of new reels, including the spod reel, which is very cool. As you guys know, I'm a blue and green fan, and that is a really cool green. Again, like I said, I don't think I would be using my club tokens on this. One other thing I want to say is there is a difference on club tokens. As you can see on the top right, right under my name, if I remember, I'll put my handy dandy blue arrow there. That is your tokens. Your club points are what's listed in the club area that are not the same thing. For example, uh, you can see I have about 250,000 points. That is not your club tokens, okay? Just so you know. With that being said, let's go back to the shop. The reels are what they are. And same the lines. The lines actually, in my opinion, sometimes can help in the leaders. But again, for the value that these are, and you're not going to get a whole lot of repeated use out of them, this isn't going to be the main focus. But the one thing I will say, if you have a chance between regular line or club series, if you already have it, just like I would with X series, say about X series, then use it up. But I wouldn't go out of your way to go ahead and get this stuff unless you have a bunch of excess club tokens. Now, as you can see here, we have a bunch of new stuff, including a rod stand. Now, I want you to note here, because a lot of these I have the X Series version of. For example, the X Series case. This actually holds less reels than the good one. We'll use this as an example. This in the chum box. Uh, you can see 105, 5 lines, 25 ground bait in here, and you can go over. If we click off new, we go to the back end. You can see there's ones with much more of it, and they're just an X series version of what is already here. So as you can see, even that rod case is this rod case has more than that. So don't be careful if you're going to get some of the club series stuff, particularly when it comes to the tools and equipment. It's actually not the best for the most part. In fact, that is, I believe, I think it's the X series. It's basically the same thing as this. I thought there was a Baitcoin one that basically that it was the club and X series were the same as. So, you know, for example, a lot of the X series stuff I don't actually use, and that would be same as the X series or the club series stuff. I probably won't be using it much. As you can see here, this is the X series one. It holds the same as the club, and it is less than what's in the actual shop. So again, with the boat, there does seem to be. We're going to get to the boat later. I can assure you, I've had this X series boat. It is slower than the Amazon or the Congo one, so keep that in mind when you guys are doing that. So they are fancy looking, but fancy doesn't mean it's going to help you, and it might be a waste of a lot of tokens. So we'll go to terminal tackle. Again, here, wouldn't necessarily spend a whole lot in here unless it's barbless, because that would help you. And again, everything that is club series is level 5. So if you feel like something's going to help you at your level, go for it. And like I said earlier, for example, whatever you're using on normally, if you don't know what to use, instead of making me a video on every lure or whatever, for example, if you're somewhere where you normally use a narrow spoon, and you're wondering what the club series if the club series narrow spoon would work, well, does the regular version work there? Then you would get an answer, because the club series one probably works better. But you can see a lot of club series stuff in here. And the reason I'm making this video is I think a lot of people might waste their money on rods and reels if they have the opportunity, and I would not recommend doing that. And here is a very good category here, guys. So we're in lures, and this is the main one. This is the one where you should be spending your club tokens at. We'll talk about a few of them, In fact, at the end of the video, just to put it into perspective of how good some of these are, I spent an hour just with this Club Series grub and went to a bunch of different places and caught uniques. So, in my opinion, there's not a lot of reason for me to do a video on each one because they're really solid everywhere. I have not run into these. I had one issue with the topper. Of all the ones I tested, once I used it a little bit, they all worked. I had a slow start with the topper, but it turns out that thing's amazing at a lot of places. So, uh, spinner tail, cheapest thing. The one thing I want to note here, guys, if you don't have many of the tokens, you could start your club. You could get, well, I think it's, I don't know what it is for each league for winning, but I think beginner starts at 60 for winning the 60 tokens for your club winning the beginner league, which isn't hard to do, especially later on the season, all the way up to like 300. So you can slowly get these through time. But if you're looking to spend your money wisely, I'm going to talk about a few things today. All right. Anything that says barbless, if you're low level, that's going to be a really good buy. Also, there's a few interesting ones here. This grub, I'm going to show at the end of the video. If you hang around to the very end, I'll put up a little bit of montage or music or whatever, just to show you that I went to a bunch of places in about an hour the other day, and it caught perfectly. And that's how all this Club Series gear can be. You take it to the right places, good. Now, the Club Series grub is one that I want to talk about, and it's really important because it works almost everywhere. I Again, all these lures will work just like the normal ones, probably just better. So if you're wondering what they work, the grub in the shad are ones that caught me off guard, and part of the reason is, they're cheap, they're weird, where they work a lot of places. And the X series versions of are hard to get for a lot of people. I have both of these, and these work around the same as the X series. I would say having the grub be one of some of the things I've tested more and more, especially in the last couple days. This grub is second to none in the grubs. It works everywhere. It works super amazing, and like I said, really cheap. So these two, the Club Series Shad and the Grub, these should be probably on the top of your list. The Worm works really well too. All these other things seem to work. You're going to see I bought quite a bit of it where I've run out of tokens. And a lot of them work really well. For example, a narrow spoon, it works for narrow spoon stuff. Trout, whatever you're going to use your normal one on. I can't be clear on this, guys. If you have a bass jig, the Club Series bass jig is going to catch the same stuff. So if you're wondering what it's doing, and like I said, this also, if you're new to the game and you go to Nile Perch, this glow shed murders there. This even made me switch off the old gold shad because this thing just does awesome. A few other things in this group to note: there is variances in colors. If I can run across one and show you, so be careful when you're buying them. I know the spinner is one. Yes, so you can see you want to be careful when you're buying them because you can see I have the there are some of them that have just a different version that isn't barbless. So make sure that if you're getting one and you want the barbless, to make sure you're focused on the barbless, especially if you're low level. All right, so we're gonna go back and talk about some of these. Uh, a lot of these are just pretty solid. I've heard from friends this Club Series Nymph is good. Obviously, I assume that, so I didn't even bother with it. Same with the crayfish. Some of these I couldn't afford to get all of them and test. So just to let you know, but everything that I have tested so far has seemed really good. And this is the one thing we're going to talk about here is these two spinners. They seem really, really good. Now, I've tried the purple one more than I did the yellow one, but this thing works everywhere. This spinner should be one of the things that are very early on your list, along with the barbless nano spinner. So if you're looking for things to focus on, this little list I'm giving you is going to help you out, um, including this bass jig if you're early game. You know, there's enough bass places where that'll help you out. So if you, like I said, you're going to have to prioritize within yourself. But them first three that I mentioned, the shad, the grub, maybe even the bass jig, them should be the first off your thing. Um, and you know, there's a lot of good options in here. I have not, as you can see, we get to more expensive ones where I couldn't afford to buy every one of these that are very good. As a whole. So if you're wondering what lures to get, whatever you use quite a bit, and you think you know if there's a Club Series version of it, go ahead and get it. I have not run across a Club Series that is not good, guys. So baits, obviously, there's not going to be Club Series baits, but we'll just so you can see ground bait. There is no ground bait, but then we get to here to the boats, and I having experience with this, guys. I know that these are level 5, and there's one here at level 1. Um, be careful with this, because these boats aren't going to be any different than the ones that are already at the store, to my knowledge. Although I haven't tested that kayak, but we can actually test. We can see if it is the same. So it's 55.75. So that isn't even a good kayak. So this is what I mean, guys, with the Club Series stuff. It's based a lot on the X Series stuff. This is the good kayak setup. So if you see 62 6 miles an hour, that is the good one. The one with a lot of stamina is still really quick. You can make it across the lake. We've done my videos where you guys can see the version. This kayak is literally just unless you like the way you look of it. But if you're going for efficiency, this kayak is a waste of time, just like the X Series one. And I can assure you I know this because you guys like to give me crap about my X Series boat. And some people really like it and want it. And I can assure you this boat is not that great. In fact, the Amazon boat, we'll go to home. These two boats are much better than it. So this Club Series boat is based off the same thing here. It's not going to be that great. So I would not, if it was me, unless you super just love the way it looks, like I do. I love the way the X Series one looks. Go ahead and get it. But man, is that a lot of tokens for something that's not going to help you? Just to be very clear. And like I said, almost everything, I didn't see anything that was over level 5 that I seen. You see the level 1. In fact, that's the only level 1 I think I seen as well. But if you're low level, some of this stuff could really help you out. As you can see, I mean, I guess if you wanted to really spend a lot on it, you could go ahead and get a pole early that you wouldn't have had access to. But to be honest, I think it's much more efficient to go down the lure and soft bait route, guys. This category here that we're looking at. Are we going to go to new here? Looks like we're not going to go to new. That category where we sat and talked about some of the lures within that is the category where you're going to want to spend your money. Or spend your club tokens, sorry. There we go. We're at level 5. Here they are. I don't know why it's not popping up new. That's kind of an interesting little bug. So these are where, if you're going to spend tokens, this is probably where you're going to want to start with. If you have extras, you can work into the other categories. And included in this, I would say the hooks, maybe the barbless Club Series hooks. I would, you could get as well. A lot of this other stuff, like a pear-shaped float, wouldn't really worry about that, guys. So anyway, hopefully this helped you out, guys, and let me know what your favorite Club Series thing is down below. And now I'm going to show you guys here at the end of the video, just an hour, even with the Club Series grub, just to show you how well that worked. You can see me catch a bunch of stuff at a bunch of different places. You guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time, folks. Have a good one.